All right, so now that you've done that, let's go back and check our answers. So if you look on that first one, we've got the slope is -1 and 1. On the second one, so where they were perpendicular, it was -1 and 1. On the second one, which was parallel, they were both 1/2. On the third, we found that they were again parallel and they were exactly the same slope. This one was neither, so even though they're reciprocals of each other, they still didn't work. These ones again were reciprocals of each other, but they didn't work. Here, they're reciprocals, so -3/4 and +4/3, so they're opposite reciprocals. So parallel lines, if you noticed on the last page, we found that parallel lines have the exact same slope. For example, your slope on the first equation, let's say it's 2/3. Your slope on the second equation would also be 2/3. Okay? Or you could have the slope on the first equation be 0. The slope on the second equation would also be 0. Or you could have the slope on the first equation be undefined, and the slope on the second equation would also be undefined. Okay, perpendicular though, we found, if we look back at this last page, the perpendicular slopes are going to be opposite sign, so one will be positive and one will be negative, but they also do something weird. So it's harder to see on the ones that are ones. You've got -1/1 and 1/1 if you write them as fractions. But here we see it a little more clearly. We went from -3/4 to a +4/3. Those are called reciprocals when you take your fraction and you flip it over. So perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. For example, we already had a couple on the last page. We'll go ahead and steal those. If your first slope was 1, your second slope will be -1. If your first slope was 4/3, your second slope is going to be -3/4. Let's say your first slope is 0, then the perpendicular slope would be something over 0, which would make it undefined. I like how I spelled undefined with an S. That's pretty special of me. So, with those couple of examples, let's move into just given equations. Let's find the slopes, and then from the slopes we're going to decide is it parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So with this first equation, it's already solved for y, which means that m should be right next to our x. So in this case, m is 2. If we look at the second equation, already solved for y, so we're looking for the number next to x. Our slope here is also 2. So because they are the same, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? If you answered parallel, that would be correct. On the next one, again, it's already solved for y, so we know our slope is just next to x. So our slope here is -4. Again, we're solved for y, so our slope here is going to be next to x. And our slope here is going to be +1/4. So looking at them, they are opposite signs. They're not exactly the same, so we know they're not parallel. They are opposite signs. So you've got one positive, one negative, check. And now we just need to decide if they are reciprocals. So we've got 4 and we've got 1/4. You can also technically write 4 as -4/1. So if you're looking at it this way, we can see that they are reciprocals. So check. So this is in fact perpendicular. All right, what I want you guys to do is you guys are going to decide out of these 4 if they are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. And then you're going to do these two. Notice that on these ones, they are not solved for y, so you need to solve for y first. Decide if it's parallel, perpendicular, or neither, and then finish off by answering the question at the end. Thank you so much.